Alhamdulillah, assalamu alaikum, peace be with you. I'm your host. You're watching The Dean Show, and in The Dean Show studio we have Dr. Lawrence Brown, who you can visit at thedeanshow.com. You can hear his soul story, read a little bit about him, and we're going to come back and continue talking about who's following Jesus more. Are the Muslims or the Christians? And you need to know that we really want the best for all of humanity. Islam says love all mankind, and that's why we want to talk about these topics, and we want to put the evidence on the table, and we want you to have an open heart and open mind and decide for yourself. Decide for yourself what makes the most sense. And when we come back, we're going to make sense of it all with Dr. Lawrence Brown here on The Dean Show. God willing, sit tight.
One of the beautiful things about our religion of Islam is the emphasis on direct ritual and prayer to God directly. There is no intermediary.
The lights will go on after the party, and the party will end.
It's very simple and very clear. There are no superstitious rituals, no strange incantations.
Time is running out. We might not make it till tomorrow, and this is something that we need to think about.
This is an interesting thing that we think when we read the Bible that we're obviously reading the words that Matthew wrote or that Paul wrote. But the reality is we don't have the originals of Matthew or of Paul's letters or of any other book of the New Testament or of the Old Testament. What we have are copies of these books that were made later, in many cases, most cases, many centuries later. So the New Testament was originally written in Greek, and at present we have something like 5,500 manuscripts in Greek of the New Testament, which is a lot for an ancient book. It's far more than any other ancient book. The problem is most of these copies are hundreds and hundreds of years after the originals, and all of them have differences in them. So that the scribes who were copying these manuscripts changed the text that they were copying, sometimes by accident. I mean, sometimes they just made mistakes. They were sleepy or incompetent or whatever. But sometimes it looks like scribes actually thought the text should say something other than it did, and then so they would change the text.
Assalamu alaikum, peace be with you.
Wa alaikum salam.
Doctor, thank you very much for joining us, Dr. Brown. Now, time is short, and it's of the essence. People can go to thedeanshow.com, read a little bit about you. You have a doctor's in divinity, you have a PhD in religious studies. You're an eye doctor by profession?
Correct.
Ophthalmologist?
Yep. The eyes have it.
Yeah. Now, you weren't a general, close to being a colonel, former U.S. major.
No,
did you say hua?
The only general I was ever was I was a pain in the behind. But
yeah.
A general pain in the behind. But no, I was a major.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, so great. So you are someone who's qualified to talk about this topic. In your previous shows that we've done, you talked about that you were an atheist, actually. Mm-hmm. You were trying very hard to be a Christian, and you ended up becoming a Muslim. The same way of life that Jesus, peace be upon him, followed, and we covered this in our last show, and we want to make sense of it all. That's how I opened up the topic. We want to make sense of it all. There's a lot of confusion out there, and you said there was a split. In the last show, people, again, go to watch that show we did. You said there was a split between the true teachings of Jesus, peace be upon him, and now the teachings of Paul.
Right. Well, it's more in the practical sense, it's a division between the teachings of Jesus Christ and the teachings of the church at this point. But what it comes down to is the teachings of Jesus versus the teachings of Paul, because the foundation of Christianity at this point is more upon the teachings of Paul than upon the teachings of Jesus. Now, a lot of Christians will not like hearing this. A lot of people out there, a lot of Christians hearing that Christianity is founded more upon the teachings of Paul than upon the teachings of Jesus will object to that. But the fact of the matter is that that is so well recognized now, even among Christian scholars, that the Christians themselves, many Christians themselves are speaking of this very fact.
Is there a Bible that has not only the red letters, the black letters, the gray letters, and now you can see like what the words allegedly are that are closest to being possibly the words of Jesus, not at all said by Jesus, might have been said by Jesus?
Right. Well, I think what you're talking about is the Jesus Seminar. The Jesus Seminar has published a book called The Five Gospels, and it's basically the four well-known Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John.
Jesus Seminar, what's this?
Well, the Jesus Seminar is a body of Christian fellows who came together to analyze the Bible, and by analyzing the Bible, agree upon the authenticity of Jesus' sayings within the Bible.
Are these scholars that got together?
They're priests, ministers, pastors. They're religious scholars of a variety of denominations.
How many of them got together?
200 over
200?
time. Yeah, over, as memory serves, over time, they have a list of 200 fellows.
And what did they conclude?
Well, basically, in publishing the 5 Gospels, they published the 4 well-known Gospels: Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and then the Gospel of Thomas. And the point behind publishing it was to show which words attributed to Jesus in the Bible were most likely actually said by him, and which words were not. So they graded them. For example, if they felt that if they agreed that the words were most likely stated by Jesus Christ, then it was in red. If it was probable that he stated the words, then they are in pink. If it is most likely that he did not say those words, then it is in gray. And if they felt that he definitely did not say those words, then it was in black. Now, you would have to look at their scheme for analyzing to get the exact classifications. I might be a little bit, a shade of gray off on their classifications, but that's basically what it came down to. And when you look through that book, what I can tell you is that you'll just find an awful lot of black and gray, and very little of it from what you would expect is actually in red. So this is just to support the fact that, as most Christians know, there is tremendous controversy over what Jesus Christ actually said, actually did. And this is why you find so many books saying, who was the historical Jesus? Who was he really? What did he really say? What did he really teach?
Well, people might say, hold on, we have Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And these were his companions, and they're telling us what he said. They had first-hand accounts.
Okay, well, first of all, we have to remember that Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John were not necessarily written by his earthly disciples, okay? All 4 of these Gospels are anonymous.
You're kidding me.
No.
You know, as Muslims, we have to tell
No.
the truth.
No.
You cannot bend the truth. You can't play with the truth. You got to speak the truth. So what you're saying is a fact, or is this according to Dr. Lawrence Brown opinion?
No. This is well known. Go to any seminary school, go to any true Christian scholar, read Graham Stanton, read Bart Ehrman. All of this is referenced in my books. You can find the exact quotations, but the bottom line is that all 4 of the Gospels are anonymous documents. They are not signed. They are within the framework of the actual manuscript. They are not attributed to any of the disciples. So the general feeling among the scholastic community of this time is that none of the 4 Gospels can be attributed to one of Jesus Christ's earthly disciples.
So how do we come back? We come back now as Muslims, and people already know by watching the show that basically a Muslim is one who submits to the will of God, and we say Jesus was a Muslim. We say that Jesus never taught, as you said in the last show, that he never taught the Trinity. He never heard the word Trinity, that he never said that he was going to come to die for the sins of the world. But where are we getting this from? Do we see this in any of the red letters that we have?
Well, I mean, these are subjects that, basically, they really deserve to be tackled.
Yeah.
But each one is a subject unto itself.
But doesn't this come because we put now Jesus, peace be upon him, and most people, to support this, they'll go to Paul. The writings of Paul, won't they?
Well, yeah, and this is kind of the point. We started out talking about, on the last episode, we talked about the fact that the Muslims emulate the appearance of Jesus Christ closer than the Christians, wearing a beard, wearing modest clothing as Jesus Christ did. The Muslim women wear a headscarf, as did Miriam, the mother of Jesus. Okay, the practicing Muslims the practicing Muslims, they conduct themselves with humility, with modesty, and they follow the tenet of religious practice that Jesus Christ taught of bearing the greeting of peace. Okay? Other religious practices, as we spoke about, circumcision, avoiding pork, avoiding usury, avoiding contact with the opposite sex. These were all practices of Jesus Christ that Muslims follow better than the example of the Christians. When you come into the acts of actual worship, making ablution before prayer, praying in prostration, fasting a month during the year in Ramadan, making pilgrimage for religious purposes. These were all practices of Jesus which we find better exemplified among the Muslims than among the Christians. When it comes to creed, we find Jesus Christ teaching 3 places in the Bible that God is one, and we don't find him teaching the Trinity anywhere. Now, that's a big issue, and we can come back to that.
Let's come back to that after the break. Is that okay?
That's fine.
We're going to take a break. We'll be right back with more here with Lawrence Brown on The Dean Show.